Hey, howdy everybody. What's up? Welcome back to my channel, or welcome to my channel if it's your first time here. We got some stuff to talk about. We got some stuff and things to go over because Miyazaki's interview for the Duskbloods has dropped and there is some juicy information in here. I cannot wait to talk about this. I'm so excited, so let's get into this. Boom, bada bing, bada boom, bam, bop. Check it out. This is on Nintendo's website. Creator's Voice, blog, Hidetaka Miyazaki on The Duskbloods, Part 1. There's 3 parts to this, and there's a lot of interesting information, so check this out. Part 1, Blood by Dusk. Can you please give us a quick self-introduction? My name is Hidetaka Miyazaki. I work at From Software, and I'm the director for The Duskbloods. And then every so often, they've got like these footnotes. You guys, we know who From Soft is. First off, please tell us what led to this title being developed for Nintendo Switch 2. So this is a bit about the history. A while back, we had the opportunity to meet with Nintendo to discuss ideas, and during this discussion, we presented a rough outline for the Duskbloods. It was still very bare bones at the time, more of a loose string of ideas than a proper presentation. Sorry, I got hiccups. The concept itself was different from anything we had done before. And Nintendo seemed very interested in helping make it a reality, so that's when the project kicked off. At first, it was being worked on by a small team as a title for Nintendo Switch. However, just as the game started to take shape, we were approached by Nintendo with talk of Switch 2, which led us to revamp our development path with this new hardware in mind. The new hardware's focus on online features allowed us to stay as true to the original vision as possible, which was very good news for us. So that's really cool. They get to do more stuff with the Switch 2, but still do what they love and what they want to do. This entire interview, you can really tell that Miyazaki has been unchained by Bandai Namco, and he is just making the games that he wants to make, and it's hilarious, and I love it. I cannot wait to see the kind of stuff that he comes up with. It sounds like this game differs from most of your previous titles. Can you give us a little more detail as to what type of game this is? In terms of structure, we consider it a PvPvE title. At its core, it's an online multiplayer-focused game with both player versus player and player versus enemy gameplay. Hold up, because he elaborates on this later, and it is actually fire. The way that this is, the way it's implemented seems incredible. Let's take a look at this though for a second, because my goodness, this looks so cool. So we got some players duking it out. We got some dudes on spikes. It's not a FromSoft game unless there's dudes on spikes, you feel me? That's pretty sick. All right, back to this. Did you always have some desire to make a PvPvE type game? Yes, I've always found the PvPvE structure very interesting. It allows for a broad range of game design ideas, while also letting us leverage our experience of designing challenging enemy encounters. So this is kind of like the evolution, I guess, of the way that they've done multiplayer in the past, except now there's just going to be people just roaming around your world, is what it seems like, which sounds really cool. As a side note, please allow me to address one thing. As previously mentioned, this is an online multiplayer title at its core, but this doesn't mean that we as a company have decided to shift to a more multiplayer-focused direction with titles going forward. Please take note of that, everybody. Everyone freaking out that FromSoft has sold out, or that, this is the end. They're just making different genres. They're just trying out some different games with their style and their flair, and I think it's incredible. I played the beta for Night Rain. It was amazing. I can easily see myself putting hundreds of hours into the full game version of that. I cannot wait. That comes out in less than 2 months. And this seems to be no different. Dude, this is coming out on the Switch 2. I can sit in bed and play this. This is going to be so nice. I cannot wait to play this. This is going to be really, really cool. Let's see. Yeah, the Nintendo Switch 2 version of Elden Ring was also announced, and we still intend to actively develop single-player focused games such as this that embrace our more traditional style. So he's clarifying that, yes, they are still going to make single-player games, because people are freaking out that this is the end, and it's not. It's just they're doing more stuff because they have the people and the time and the money and the resources to do more stuff, so why wouldn't we? Instead of waiting 5 to 6 years for the next big FromSoft release, why not get a couple multiplayer games in between. It's not hurting anything. Let's do it. This sounds amazing. All right. Now we get into the game itself. So please tell us about the game's character and setting. The game's protagonists or characters are controlled by the player. Characters controlled by the player are known as Bloodsworn. The Bloodsworn are a group whose members have achieved superhuman abilities through the power of special blood. As a concept, they're similar to vampires, but they are not portrayed as the horrifying monsters you might associate with traditional vampirism. We tried to extract the sort of romantic aspects we found interesting from concepts such as vampires and blood and reinterpreted them as the Bloodsworn. So they're taking the cool stuff about vampires. Not that the horror, scary vampires aren't cool, like Nosferatu type thing, but they're taking more of like the sleek, stylish, as they say, romantic approach to the vampires and like gothic horror and putting that in this game, where Bloodborne was more focused on the scary, horrific type of thing. This seems to be more focused on the more romantic gothic horror and leaning into those vibes, which is pretty cool. In the Duskbloods, the Bloodsworn are competing for something. Look at that. The atmosphere in this game is going to be off the charts. It's going to be insane. In the Duskbloods, the Bloodsworn are competing for something known as First Blood. As human society reaches an end, First Blood flows in an event known as the Twilight of Humanity. The Bloodsworn are summoned to the Twilight of Humanity across a variety of different times and places in a bid to obtain First Blood. Due to this, there is no fixed era or location in which the Duskbloods takes place. There are more traditional Gothic or Victorian-style maps, as well as those depicting the closing years of the early modern period, like the one glimpsed in the trailer with a train running through it, which was really cool. This looks so fun. This kind of reminds me of something like Dishonored or Lies of P, or... Why is that here? Oh, is that... I zoomed in so far, it thinks I'm on mobile. Yeah, like Dishonored, Lies of P... just like something else that has this vibe. It's so cool. That's really kind of sick. Wow. Or even like what's that Valve game that the MOBA that I played a few games of and didn't like? Oh, Deadlock. So this is going to be really cool. I think the atmosphere and the overall like vibe and the locations is going to be so cool. I can't wait to see, like, is this going to be one big open world? Are there going to be multiple maps? Because as you see later, you get to choose some things about how you play the game. And that kind of leads into, like, are there going to be different maps that work better with certain play styles? We'll have to see. Can you let us know the meaning behind the title, The Duskbloods? The Duskbloods refers directly to the Bloodsworn themselves. As mentioned earlier, the Bloodsworn are summoned to the Twilight of Humanity in a battle for First Blood. Duskbloods is a collective term for these characters controlled by the player. It sounds like blood plays a pretty big role in this game. Yes, in the context of this game, blood is used more conceptually as opposed to literal meanings like physical depictions of injury. Blood symbolizes one of the game's key themes: the history it holds, the power it passes on, the fates it weaves, and the marker of those who have surpassed the limitations of their own humanity. Basically confirming that the blood gives you superpowers. And then we get into the superhuman abilities and opportunistic behavior part 2, where he starts to talk more about some of these superpowers that these people have, basically. Oh my goodness, look at that. Look, that's Mordor in the background. Like, what are we doing? That's so cool. Part 2, superhuman abilities and opportunistic behavior. What are some characteristics of the Bloodsworn? There are several characteristics we put the player's focus on the Bloodsworn. There are several reasons we put the player's focus on the Bloodsworn. Guys, I can't read sometimes. It's fine. With one of those being character actions. The Bloodsworn possess superhuman abilities thanks to special blood. Fear the old blood. So their actions are more dramatic than anything seen in our previous titles. Even basic character actions in this game, such as sprinting, super jump, and double jump, are designed to be dynamic and stress-free and are complemented by each character's own unique weapons and abilities, allowing for a wide range of creativity. Very cool. So we've got a lot of different movement stuff, a lot of like no fall damage type stuff, as we saw in the trailer when the dude just leapt off the cliff. This guy seems so cool. Like a vampire with a sword and AK-47 is good. That goes so hard, dude. Also, while this isn't directly related to the Bloodsworn themselves, the setting allows for the depiction of firearms, and as such, every character is equipped with some means of attacking from a distance. Very cool. So you don't have any pure melee builds. You have some that, I mean, everybody's got some ranged weapon of some sort. Dude, this picture does not do justice to this thing. This only solidifies my theory that this is just the average British person. Look at those teeth. Look at those teeth, my dude. Look at, oh my goodness gracious, look at those teeth. Okay. Earlier, you referred to protagonists or characters as plural. Does this mean the player will be able to choose from multiple different characters? Here's where things get interesting. Yes, there are over a dozen characters for the player to choose from, each with their own identity and appearance. I think there are a lot of unique elements to the character designs and weapons they use, so hopefully players can find one or two favorites among them. Also, each character can be customized to a certain extent, allowing players the fun of building a character that feels like their own. He goes into more detail with this later, but this confirms that there will be ways of customizing your character, and it seems to be pretty interesting with the way that plays out. Can you provide some more detail on the general gameplay loop? So here we go. This is where I got really interested in this because the gameplay loop sounds incredible. Listen to this. The game has a so-called hub area where players can choose their character, customize them, and enter online multiplayer, which supports up to 8 players. Upon concluding an online match, players then return to the hub, at which point they receive some sort of reward, whether they win or lose. Using these rewards, players can further customize their character, and so the cycle continues. Online matches are generally last player standing. However, there are certain cases where victory conditions differ. For example, players may be tasked with teaming up to take down a powerful boss enemy or find themselves in other special circumstances. So the victory conditions are influenced not just by PvP results, but PvE results as well. That's right. Some victory conditions center around defeating a boss enemy. I can't think of many examples with that rule set. It sounds very interesting. I'm happy to hear you say that. Regardless of whether it's PvP or PvE, the idea is to provide players with an experience that allows them to learn and hone their skills as they play. We've therefore designed the PvE boss encounters to present a tough challenge and a sense of accomplishment upon defeating them. So, as you'll see later, this game has the chance and the opportunity, I think from what I read later on, I'll get to it later, but I think you get to choose whether you want to do PvP or PvE focus with this game. That's what it looks like to me. At least in certain scenarios, which is really cool, which is so sick. Like, it's a multiplayer game, but if you want, you can just team up with people to take down bosses, and that could be your victory condition. Like, it's so cool. And he goes into this later, and that supports my theory about that being the case, but check this out. So players can also enjoy improving their own skills over time as they battle. Yes, although there are a variety of elements in place that keep the game from becoming too stoic. For example, how players conduct themselves during the match is just important as direct combat. Here we go, listen. The Duskbloods implements victory points, which are responsible for ultimately deciding the outcome of a match. To obtain victory points, direct combat is, of course, important, but it's not the only way. Some players may prefer to earn points by avoiding direct combat and instead engaging in more opportunistic behavior. How you earn points is entirely up to you. Additionally, each character can summon an entity to assist in combat. We saw that in the trailer where the leather dude with the big sword did something and character appeared next to him, and then they both proceeded into the boss room. Can summon they can summon an entity, giving players a high degree of freedom when it comes to how they fight and win. So that is really cool. So it's not just straight up, hey, here's this world, go. Fight things, you're the last one standing, you win. That could be a win condition, but there are other win conditions later, as he'll get to some of the stuff in a later section of the article, but there are other win conditions. You could go into this potentially, don't take my word for it, but you could go into this potentially and go for a more co-op experience and just play co-op. And you could pick your win condition being team up and defeat this boss. So check this out. He gets into this with the next part 3, but watch this, where he gets into the playing the roles and the different roles you can choose from. Another important aspect is match variables, such as the event system. This system has the potential to alter the course of the match, such as special enemy spawns and additional objectives with the accompanying bonus rewards. In the trailer, you may have noticed a giant stone face looming in the sky, which is one of the sickest shots of the whole game, by the way. This is one example of the events that can occur in a match. In this case, the appearance of this stone face affects the environment and changes match rewards. which can have an immediate impact upon player motivations and objectives. That's really cool. So imagine you're like, you go into this and you're going and you're having like, I don't know, you take like the bounty hunter role or something, and you decide to do a thing where you target another player and you have to hunt down this player and kill them, and that's your win condition. Then big stone face appears in the sky, and suddenly like everybody, like all the enemies go into a frenzy or something like that, and then your win condition is to team up and take down the enemies or something. Like I'm just like thinking of ideas here of how this could potentially play out, and this sounds so cool. It seems like the matches will be dynamic and they'll change throughout, and it won't be just voice crack. Sorry, I just woke up and I haven't eaten anything, and it's like 2 p.m. and my voice is out of it. Sorry. Okay. Yeah, these events don't happen all the time, and I hope discovering them gives players some incentive to keep coming back. So it's kind of like different weather things, or like what he's talked about with Night Rain, where there's going to be, or not him specifically, but other people, I guess, where there's going to be some things in Night Rain, like a tornado just shows up, or like here's a blood moon and everyone's going insane. Like things like that sound really cool to kind of throw a wrench in some matches and keep them interesting. It sounds like even those who tend to shy away from PvP can still enjoy themselves. There you go. That was the intention. I personally am not much of a PvP person, and I wanted to make something that's satisfying even for players like me. PvE players rejoice and shut up. It is online, but it is still great. It is multiplayer, but that does not mean it is exclusively PvP, and that does not mean that you do not have to play this game, or that does not mean that you won't play this game if you don't like PvP. It's going to have a lot of PvE stuff built in and a lot of co-op, as we're going to see in the next section. While the goal of a match is to obtain first blood, there are personal objectives that provide separate rewards to the player as well. So I hope these add to the fun of each engagement. Playing roles and altering fates. Here's where we get into some of the really sick stuff. Sick as in a good way, not sick as in twisted, but it's Miyazaki, so you never know. What other ways might players enjoy the game outside of combat? Okay, I'm gonna get a drink. Hold up, give me a second. Okay, I got some water. I feel a little better. Part 3, playing roles and altering fates. What other ways might players enjoy the game outside of combat? One thing I love doing in any game... Why can I not read today? Blah. One thing I love doing in any game I direct is leaving fragments of lore and world-building details, allowing the player the fun of using their imagination to make connections. Classic Miyazaki. That's one of the things that I love most about his games, is just going through and like reading item descriptions and seeing stuff. The Duskbloods is no exception to this. However, we've gone about it a little differently from previous titles. The fragments this time are found in the previously mentioned character customization items, their blood history and fate. Customizing a character will reveal a piece of information regarding the world and its unfolding story. You can customize their blood history and fate? Yes. Analyzing and altering a character's blood history and fate allows players to customize all sorts of things, from their abilities, appearance, and inner characteristics to the role they play in the world and relationships with other characters. Focusing these elements on the concept of blood, or blood history and fate, allowed for a deeper exploration of customization, and is another reason we placed the Bloodsworn as the protagonists. That is so cool. So you get to take these pieces of customization, whatever they may be, appearance, abilities, inner characteristics, and you get to write the backstory of these characters and put them together and kind of like build these characters and make them a little bit different depending on how you want them to be built, which is really cool. Do you mind sharing any other points you personally find interesting? One area I haven't talked about yet is roles. This is what's going to lead into some of the more PvE stuff that seems very interesting for PvE only players, or people who aren't as interested in PvP. In online play, roles give players special responsibilities and objectives that often lead to unique interactions and relationships between players based on their corresponding roles. That's probably not much info to go on, so allow me to provide a few examples. But please note we're still finalizing some of the naming and details. For example, if a player possesses the Destined Rivals role, another player is destined as their rival, and they are tasked with finding and defeating that player. That's kind of like the bounty hunter thing I was saying earlier. So like you're maybe not a win condition, maybe that's not the right phrase, but you get more victory points for for like doing that. Doing so counts as achieving a personal goal separate from the overall victory conditions. So you've got like other goals that will give you these victory points that are separate from just the overall match-wide victory conditions. So you can do like a more PvP or PvE focus depending on what you want to do, but then there's still like the overall conditions, and you could get more points than somebody else who just streamlined the defeating other players thing, and then you could win. I mean, who knows? Seems pretty cool. Another example is Destined Companion, where one player is required to seek out another designated as their companion, which results in a special reward if they form a bond with one another. That's so cool. That's kind of what we see here, where we see like, you know, you can pick like, okay, I want to be a Destined Companion, and then someone else picks Destined Companion, and then you two have to find each other, team up, and help each other make your way through the game together. That's so cool. That's really kind of neat. Kind of like how players can pick their roles in a tabletop RPG. Exactly. While not entirely intentional, it may reflect my own interests a bit. It might seem a little unorthodox at first, but I hope players will give it a try. This sounds really cool because there haven't been any games that really do this, where it's multiplayer competitive, but you have the option to team up with people and work together to fight other people and bosses. That's really, really cool. So unique. That reminds me, I was curious about the winged rat character seen in the trailer. Can you provide some details as to what role this character serves? That character shares a similar role with the Firekeepers from the Dark Souls series. They remain in the hub area, providing the player with advice and guidance. So this guy is going to be our Firekeeper, and he's going to be chilling in this hub area and giving us, I don't know, upgrades or whatever, but that's pretty cool. It's pretty cool. It gives a little rat dude with a Treasure Planet map on his ear. I suppose you could say we tried doing something a little Nintendo-esque in the spirit of the partnership. What do you mean by that? We tried something cute for a change. Although I will say this character is actually an elderly gentleman. Laughter. Laughter. Is there anything else you'd like to say before we finish? In addition to creating a PvPvE title, we've tried our hand at introducing a lot of new and interesting ideas with the Duskbloods. From superhuman actions, a freeform combat approach, and gameplay that's dynamic and dramatic, to the romanticized aesthetic of the Bloodsworn, a deep character customization, and fragmentary storytelling, I think there's a lot to appreciate and enjoy in this title, and I sincerely hope players look forward to it. Thank you very much for your time. And there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. We have the interview with Miyazaki about how peak this game is going to be. This looks really cool. This looks like an incredible amalgamation of ideas in such a weird way. And I'm really looking forward to playing this, especially on Switch 2. Now, I've said it before, I really hope it's not just exclusive to Switch 2 for its entire lifespan, because I don't think it should be locked to a console. It should be brought to at least Steam at some point. But I will definitely, I mean, I'm already going to be buying a Switch 2 for other games, but this is just, I think this is going to be a system seller for a lot of people. Now, obviously, system seller doesn't mean that you're only going to buy the Switch 2 and then just play this and never any other game. But a lot of people who are kind of like, I don't know about that, and then they see the Duskbloods, and they're like, okay, I'm getting Switch 2. Like, there definitely are going to be people who do that. And this made me definitely need to get one. I was already going to get one, but I'm definitely going to have to get one because of this. This is going to be incredible. Can't wait to stream matches of this like I am going to do with Night Rain. That's so cool. All right. There you go. Let me know if you've got any questions, comments, concerns about this game, because this seems to have brought up a lot of, I guess, what's the word? Like bad faith in the community over this. And I think it's misplaced. Same thing with Night Rain. People saw Night Rain. People saw this. They saw that it's not a conventional single-player, big story-based FromSoft game. This seems to have a lot of story and lore in it. Night Rain, not so much. Night Rain, not as much on the story and lore because it's an Elden Ring spinoff. This seems to have a lot of lore built into it, and you can kind of customize how you want that lore to be based on how you make your character, which is really cool. But I think this is going to be a hit. I think this is going to be really, really cool. And I think the people who are worried about it shouldn't be. I think if you're worried and concerned that this is not going to be as good, or not going to be as quality as other FromSoft games, I think you vastly misunderstand the capabilities of FromSoft, because FromSoft can do this, and they are doing this. And I think Night Rain was just the tip of the iceberg when it comes to the kind of games that they want to make. I can't wait for them to make the full-on Fortnite clone, even though Night Rain has like a couple Fortnite elements. It's got a couple Battle Royale elements, but it's not a Battle Royale at its core at all. Can't wait for them to make the CS:GO clone. We're gonna have the Duskbloods global offensive, where we're gonna have is that what CS:GO stands for? I never even I don't even know. I think it is. I never hear the full title. And I think FromSoft is just going to keep making incredible games like this. They were great before Elden Ring, but Elden Ring really pushed them up to like the next level. And in terms of popularity and in terms of like big market-wide appeal, they're even more popular now than they have ever been, and it's only going to get bigger. So I'm really excited to see what they have coming up next, and this is going to be incredible. I suspect that they're going to unveil their next big mainline game either just before or just after the Duskbloods releases, so the players are satiated when it comes to their concerns that FromSoft is selling out, which they are not. They are in no way selling out. I've never even had a little smidgen of doubt in my mind that they were selling out. This is just them wanting to make other games. And this is just Miyazaki, free from Bandai Namco, able to make his own games on his own terms, making his own his own like rules and his own guidelines, his own limitations on things. He is now collaborating with people instead of Bandai Namco kind of controlling the kind of games that he makes, which I think held him back a little bit. Now he's just kind of doing a bunch of stuff. He's like, I want to make a PvPvE game. I'm doing it. Okay, I want to make a Bloodborne style PvPvE game. Cool. I'm doing it. I'm making it. Nintendo wants to fund it and put it on the Switch 2 exclusively. Cool. We can do that. Done. Give us the money. We'll do. I'll make it. Sure. There you go. So I think this is amazing, and this is going to be a great game. All right. Thank you to everybody for watching this video. Let me know what you think down in the comments below. Like, comment, subscribe, all that YouTube stuff, and I'll see you in the next one. Goodbye.